Russian and Turkish representatives in Ankara held consultations regarding Syria. Both sides confirmed their commitment to easing tensions and fighting terrorism. And earlier, the situation in Idlib was the topic of the emergency meeting of UN Security Council. At that meeting, Russia once again had to open the eyes of its Western counterparts. Russia's permanent representative reminded them that Turkish military forces are located on the territory of another sovereign country without its permission, and Damascus has an absolute right to fight terrorism on its own territory. Our reporter has the details. When opening a session of Security Council, the Secretary General of United Nations was very careful when choosing words. The Turkey-Syria conflict has come so close to crossing the dangerous line that the members of the Security Council had a hard time choosing words other than war. I insist on putting an end to military actions. There is a huge risk that potential escalation can result in a different type of conflict, a conflict of different nature. After the exchange of fire, Ankara announced that 33 of its soldiers were killed. At the same time, the Turkey's objectives in Syria do not include fighting government forces. Nevertheless, Turkish partners in NATO paid no attention to that. We were shocked and appalled by the deaths of Turkish servicemen. We stand in solidarity with Turkey because they are our allies. The United States representative tried to make it look like the Turkish servicemen that came under fire from Syrian military were not engaged in any military actions whatsoever. Turkey has every right to act in self-defense in response to the murder of its soldiers who were manning their posts in Idlib province. This interpretation was so difficult to believe that even Turkish representative didn't support it. According to him, the servicemen that were killed were part of a military convoy which was outside the area of their observation posts, and the only reason they were in the convoy is because they were moving from the rear towards their observation posts. The question remains then, why would this fact be concealed from the Russian military? The coordinates given to us yesterday did not contain any references to the places where the Turkish servicemen were ultimately killed. As soon as Russia became aware of what had happened, it went above and beyond to make sure the fires stopped and to ensure safe evacuation of dead and wounded. And to rule out any possibility of speculation, Russian Ministry of Defense confirmed that Russian Air Force was not used in the area. The Syrian military was working in that area when their positions were attacked by gunmen. We cannot prohibit Syria from complying with the requirements of UN resolutions regarding fighting terrorism in all of its forms and shapes, and especially, I must stress, on its own territory and not on a foreign territory. It was basically during the firefight when it became apparent that there were Turkish soldiers among the attackers, which was the last place anybody would expect them to be. One thing for sure, Turkey would definitely try to keep its alliance with terrorists out of the public view. Turkish observation posts that were established to control activities of the terrorists and to prevent their atrocities have been turned into the outposts for the terrorists. Also, Turkish servicemen work at substantial distances away from their posts to support the terrorists. Ankara has already declared that from now on it considers all of the Syrian military units to be hostile. Once the military confrontation continued, Turkey lost another one of its servicemen. Turkey does not want war, but we are ready to use force if anything threatens our security. Up until now, we exercised utmost restraint, but at this stage we are evaluating all available options as a response to provocation and aggression. Under the cover of Russian military police, the inhabitants of villages in the Idlib area that are under terrorist control are leaving the dangerous area. The governance structure there is a mixture of anarchy and very peculiar variation of Sharia law. In those areas, one can end up in jail for exchanging messages with a girl or for speaking in a loud voice during fast. Over there, we don't live like people, we live like animals in constant suffering. We have moved here, it is quiet here, and we hope that every last piece of our land will once again become ours. It is dangerous there. Turks and terrorists live there and don't allow us to live there. They robbed us of our money, our property, took furniture from our apartments. We didn't know when they would put us in jail. NATO's declaration of its support for Turkey is being blocked by Greece. Greece has already seen a wave of refugees on its shore. Contrary to the agreement to stop the flow of refugees, Ankara opened up its borders. And while Greece is preparing to control the crowds, Erdogan's actions are openly encouraged by US Secretary of State Pompeo. Under the circumstances, the representatives of Pentagon and Russian military discussed the situation over the phone. If there was one thing that all the participants of the meeting agreed upon, it was the fact that no results can be achieved without the dialogue at the highest level between Russia and Turkey. It has already been announced that the meeting of Vladimir Putin and Recep Erdogan may take place at the end of next week.